The year was 1760, and the terror of the Pine Barrens had become the talk of every tavern, church, and farmhouse in southern New Jersey. By now, the Jersey Devil was not merely a legend, it was a living nightmare. Stories of glowing eyes, clawed footprints, and mutilated livestock had driven many families to abandon their homes. Even the bravest men refused to travel alone through the pine woods after dark. Yet, in every frightened community, there was always one man who thought himself unafraid. His name was Jonas Creed, a hunter renowned for his skill and pride. He had trapped bears, wolves, and mountain lions but no devil, and he intended to prove to all that the stories were nothing more than superstition. Monsters are born in men's minds. He told the townsfolk at the tavern, "I'll bring back the beast or its bones." With his musket polished, traps sharpened, and a lantern swinging from his belt, Jonas ventured into the heart of the barrens. One frosty evening, the forest was heavy with silence, thick with mist that seemed to cling to the trees like ghosts, unwilling to let go. He walked for hours until the sky turned from gray to black. The moon rose pale and cold above him, spilling silver light through the canopy. Somewhere, far off, a strange cry echoed, a sound between a child's wail and a woman's scream. Jonas stopped, his breath clouding in the air. "That'll be a fox," he muttered, though his voice trembled. "Just a fox." He set his traps near an old ravine where claw marks scarred the rocks. Around him, the trees stood like watchful giants, their branches swaying in a wind that carried the faint smell of rot and iron. He lit a small fire, but the warmth did little to push away the chill crawling up his spine. Hours passed. The forest slept, except for the whispering wind. Then came the sound, wings beating, slow and heavy. Jonas lifted his lantern. Scanning the trees, something moved above the firelight. Two glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness. Far too high to belong to any animal. The eyes blinked once, then spread apart as massive wings unfurled, stretching wider than a man's height. The creature stepped forward, its hooves cracking frozen leaves beneath it. Its skin gleamed like wet leather, horns curling from its skull. Its tail flicked, slicing through the mist like a whip. Jonas froze. His hand trembled on the musket. "In the name of God," he whispered. The creature hissed, a sound like steam escaping from the earth itself. Its breath was hot, reeking of decay and smoke. Jonas fired his musket, and the shot shattered the stillness. The blast lit the clearing for a moment, enough for him to see the devil. Fully it stood upright, like a man but wrong in every way. Its body twisted, its shoulders hunched, its chest rising and falling with animal fury. In those eyes they burned with sorrow, not just rage. Jonas stumbled backward. The creature lunged with terrifying speed, smashing the lantern and plunging them both into darkness. He fell, his musket lost in the mud. He heard wings beating above him, then silence. When light returned, only the dim glow of the dying fire. Jonas was alone. His traps were shattered. His musket lay bent in half, as if crushed by impossible strength. And on a tree beside him, carved deep into the bark, were claw marks forming the shape of a cross. Jonas staggered home before sunrise, pale and trembling. He said little of what he saw, except one thing that chilled every listener to the bone. "It wasn't trying to kill me," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It was warning me." It spoke without words, and I felt its grief. Within days, Jonas fell ill. He raved in his fever, muttering about a woman crying in the trees, and a voice calling, "Mother, forgive me." He died before the week ended. After that, the Pine Barrens grew darker still. The trees seemed to move closer together. The wind carried whispers that weren't just wind, and those who dared venture near Leeds Point said they sometimes found claw marks, fresh ones cut deep into the trunks of ancient pines, as if something was still searching for what it had lost. The hunter had met the devil, and the devil had remembered what it once was. By the winter of 1761, the terror that began in the shadowed woods of Leeds Point had spread like wildfire. The stories of the Jersey Devil, no longer whispers, but full-blown hysteria, reached every corner of the southern colonies. Farmers bolted their doors at night, mothers forbade children from wandering beyond the fences, and priests held midnight vigils to ward off the unholy creature said to rule the Pine Barrens. The towns near the forest, Egg Harbor, and Batsta, grew hollow and afraid. Some families abandoned their homes altogether, leaving behind fields, wagons, and animals that no one dared to claim. The few who stayed spoke of red eyes glowing through the fog, and a cry that could curdle blood. They called it the Leeds Devil. But soon, outsiders would rename it the Jersey Devil, for no one wanted to believe such horror could belong to a single family. One evening, at the edge of Smithville, a schoolteacher named Abigail North sat by candlelight, grading her students' lessons. The wind howled against the window, rattling the panes. Her dog growled low, the fur on its back standing straight. Then, the night went silent. No wind, no rustle, no heartbeat but her own. Abigail rose and looked outside. At first, she saw nothing, just the woods, shrouded in mist. But then, a shadow moved across the moon, swift and silent. She caught only a glimpse, wings spread wide, tail lashing the air, and eyes burning red. The candle flickered out. Her scream was never heard. The next morning, the townsfolk found her door broken inward, her papers scattered, and the walls scorched as though by lightning. On her windowsill lay a single black feather, larger than a crow's, too strange to belong to any bird. The panic that followed was unstoppable. Preachers cried that God's wrath had fallen upon them for sin and pride. Some said the devil was the 13th child returned to avenge its cursed birth. Others claimed it was a fallen angel cast from heaven, seeking a soul to take its place. Children were baptized twice. Fires burned in the streets at night to keep the devil away. But the creature, it seemed, feared nothing. One Sunday morning, the Reverend Samuel Barrett stood before his congregation in Mount Holly, voice trembling as thunder rolled outside. "We are being tested," he said, gripping his Bible tight. "The devil walks among us, because faith has withered from our hearts." As he spoke, the church windows rattled. A shadow swept past them, blotting out the sunlight. The candles flickered. Then came the sound of scream so piercing, it shattered the stained glass. People fell to their knees, crying, "Mercy, mercy!" The Reverend dared to look outside. Across the graveyard, perched upon the steeple, was a shape dark, winged, and still. It stared down upon the church, head tilting as though it understood every prayer spoken below. Then, with a rush of wind, it took flight, scattering the snow and ash that clung to the ground. The congregation fled that day. The church was abandoned, its doors left open to the wind. To this day, some said that if you walked past Mount Holly's ruins at midnight, you could still hear the faint echo of that unholy scream. From wherever you're watching, welcome to the dark heart of New Jersey, a place where whispers rise with the wind, and shadows carry ancient curses. Tonight, we uncover the chilling legend of the Jersey Devil, the creature that was never meant to be born. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, because what you're about to hear, might just keep you awake tonight. In the heart of the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, where tangled trees whispered secrets to the wind and shadows stretched like reaching hands, there lived a poor woman named Deborah Leeds. The year was 1735, and the world seemed to have forgotten her small home on the edge of Leeds Point. Her husband, Japheth Leeds, a weary woodsman, spent his days chopping trees and his nights nursing cheap ale to forget the hunger that haunted their family. They already had 12 children, all thin and pale from years of struggle. The smallest, a boy of 5, coughed through the nights. The eldest, barely 16, worked in the fields instead of dreaming of a better life. Deborah loved them fiercely, but love did not fill bellies or mend worn shoes. And so, when she found herself carrying a 13th child, despair filled her heart like winter frost on glass. The night she told Japheth, he slammed his mug onto the table. "Another mouth to feed," he growled. "We can't even keep the ones we have alive." Deborah said nothing. She simply stared into the fire, her eyes glistening. The flickering flames painted her face in streaks of red and shadow, as if the devil himself were listening. Days turned into months, and her pregnancy grew heavier with every step. The townsfolk whispered that the Leeds family was cursed. Some said Deborah's ancestors practiced dark rituals. Others claimed she had angered a preacher by refusing to attend church. No one offered help. No one dared visit their lonely cabin among the pines. One stormy night, thunder rolled over the barrens like the roar of some ancient beast. Rain lashed against the roof as Deborah screamed in labor. The midwife, Old Mother Crow, a wrinkled woman with eyes as sharp as needles, arrived wrapped in a black cloak. "It's time," she croaked. "Bring boiling water, hurry." Hours passed. The storm raged louder. The other children huddled in corners, their faces pale. Japheth paced outside, smoking and muttering prayers. And inside, between the cries of agony and thunder, Deborah's voice rose in a curse that would echo for centuries. "Let this child be a devil if it must. Let it bring an end to our misery." Lightning split the sky. The room filled with blinding white light. When the flash faded, the crying of a newborn echoed through the cabin sharp and strong. But within seconds, the cries turned to shrieks, shrill and inhuman. Old Mother Crow gasped. "Mercy of God!" The baby's skin darkened, its tiny fingers curling into claws. Wings burst from its back and leathery, like those of a bat. A tail lashed the air. Its eyes, once blue, burned red as fire. Deborah screamed, reaching out in horror. But the creature turned its gaze upon her, its own mother, and shrieked so loudly that the candles blew out. Japheth stormed into the room, his lantern shaking in his hand. What he saw froze his soul. The 13th child, transformed into something no man should ever witness. The creature unfolded its wings and shot upward, smashing through the chimney with a roar. Outside, the storm swallowed it whole. For hours, the wind howled. When morning came, the forest was eerily silent. Deborah lay in bed, pale as ash, whispering the same words over and over. "I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it." The midwife vanished that morning, never to be seen again. Some said she had been taken by the creature. Others believed she fled, fearing what she'd witnessed. The Leeds children spoke little of that night, and as they grew older, most left Leeds Point behind. But those who stayed would tell stories of screams in the trees, of beating wings above the fog, and of a shadow that moved against the wind. Years later, travelers who passed through the Pine Barrens would swear they'd heard a cry in the distance, half human, half beast. Horses refused to go near the woods, and the locals began to whisper one name whenever night fell too quiet, the Jersey Devil. And somewhere deep in the wilderness, beneath the eternal whisper of pine needles, something stirred, watching, waiting, remembering the curse that gave it life. Years passed since that cursed night, but the Pine Barrens never forgot. The forest, once alive with birds and rustling leaves, grew quiet as if it held its breath. Only the wind dared to move through its tangled branches, carrying faint echoes of screams no one could explain. By the 1750s, the tale of Mother Leeds' 13th child had spread far beyond Leeds Point. Farmers whispered of it around fires, sailors spoke of it in taverns, and mothers frightened misbehaving children with its name. Behave, or the devil will come for you. But to those who lived near the barrens, the story was not just a tale. It was a warning. At the edge of the forest, an old farmer named Silas Crane woke one morning to find his barn doors torn from their hinges. His chickens were gone, and deep claw marks scarred the wood. He followed strange tracks in the mud hoofprints that ended suddenly, as if the creature had taken flight. When he told his neighbors, they laughed. But that night, his laughter turned to fear. For when the moon rose, a sound came from the woods, a piercing scream, like metal tearing through bone. Silas was never seen again. Soon, hunters began finding mutilated deer, drained of blood. Horses bolted in terror for no reason. The woods were filled with strange cries, echoing between the trees, sometimes sounding like a woman, other times like a child. Even the bravest men refused to enter the barrens after dusk. One such man, Elias Boone, didn't believe in curses. He was a hunter by trade, proud and stubborn. "There's no devil in those woods," he said, "only foxes and fools." With a musket on his back and a cross around his neck, he set off into the forest one gray afternoon, determined to find the truth. The deeper he walked, the quieter it became. No birds, no crickets, only the soft crunch of pine needles beneath his boots. The trees seemed to close around him, their dark shapes bending inward. As he reached a clearing, he found bones, animal bones at first, then something worse. Human remains, old and cracked, half buried in moss. He crouched to examine them, and that's when he heard it, a whisper. At first, it sounded like the wind, but then the words grew clearer. "Go home, before it's too late." Elias spun around, musket raised, but no one was there. The air grew thick with mist. Then came the smell, sulfur and decay, like something had crawled from the depths of the earth. His heart hammered as he saw a shadow move between the trees. A pair of glowing red eyes stared back at him. The creature stepped into the light of his lantern. Its skin was black and leathery, its wings vast and skeletal. Horns curved from its head, and its mouth opened in a sound that made the forest tremble or wail between a roar and a cry. Elias fired his musket, but the bullet passed through empty air. The creature lunged, its wings battering the trees, and Elias ran, stumbling through roots and branches, chased by shrieks that followed him to the edge of the forest. When villagers found him the next morning, he was pale and trembling. His hair turned white. He never spoke again. Only once, before his death, did he whisper a single phrase: "It remembers me." After that, the townspeople began to vanish. Livestock were found mutilated, carriages overturned. Every storm brought new sightings: a shadow flying against the lightning, a figure perched atop church steeples. Fear took root deeper than the pines themselves. Some said the creature was hunting those who spoke its name. Others believed it was searching for something, or someone. The old ones whispered that Mother Leeds' curse had no end, that the devil still carried her grief in its monstrous heart, and on nights when the wind blew from the barrens, travelers swore they could hear her voice carried on the breeze, soft, sorrowful, and filled with regret. "Forgive me, my child." The legend of the Jersey Devil grew with every retelling, until it was no longer just a tale of one cursed family. It was a story of the land itself, a place marked by darkness and sorrow. The Pine Barrens became its prison and its kingdom, but deep within the wilderness, something still stirred, watching, waiting, for the curse was not finished. Not yet. 2 months after Clara Leeds discovered her ancestors' journal, news of her findings reached the attention of a man who had no patience for legends. Dr. Adrian Cole, a field biologist from Princeton University, had built his reputation on exposing myths. To him, the Jersey Devil was just another campfire tale, a combination of superstition, hysteria, and local wildlife misidentified by frightened eyes. But when Clara published fragments of Deborah Leeds' writings in a historical journal, Adrian's curiosity stirred. Her descriptions of the 13th child with wings and hoofprints in stone matched accounts stretching back hundreds of years. The consistency was unusual. And so, driven by equal parts skepticism and intrigue, Dr. Cole decided to prove once and for all that the Jersey Devil was a story, not a species. He assembled a small research team equipped with night vision cameras, drones, and motion sensors. Their destination, the deepest stretch of the Pine Barrens, near the ruins of the old Leeds homestead. Clara, unable to ignore the pull of her bloodline, joined the expedition, her ancestors' journal clutched tightly in her pack. They arrived at dusk. The forest loomed endless and quiet. The sun bled into the horizon, staining the sky a bruised red. As the last light faded, the air grew cold and heavy, thick with the scent of pine and decay. Dr. Cole set up the cameras, marking coordinates on his tablet. Movement sensors here, and here, he said, pointing to the clearing. We'll track any large animal within a mile radius. Clara looked up from the charred remains of a chimney, the last fragment of her family's home. This is where it began, she whispered. Where she cursed him. Dr. Cole gave a thin smile. Then it's the perfect place to end the story. As night fell, the woods came alive with quiet noises, the hum of insects, the creak of trees shifting in the wind. The team huddled around their monitors inside a small tent. At first, nothing unusual appeared. Then, just past midnight, one of the motion sensors triggered. The cameras picked up a brief flicker, a shape gliding between trees, too large to be a bird. Dr. Cole leaned forward. Pause the footage. There, frame by frame, the shape came into focus. Wings, long, thin, membranous, but the heat signature captured by thermal imaging was colder than its surroundings. That's impossible, he muttered. No living creature gives off negative heat. Clara's breath caught. Unless it's not living. A second alert sounded, then another. The monitors flickered one by one, static swallowing the screens. Outside, a strange wind began to blow through the clearing, low and rhythmic, like the beating of wings. Dr. Cole grabbed a flashlight. Stay here, he ordered, but Clara followed. The night swallowed them. Their flashlights cut through the fog like knives, illuminating trunks scarred by deep claw marks. The smell of sulfur and burnt wood filled the air. Then silence. Even the insects stopped. Something moved above them. A rush of air. A shadow sweeping past the moon. They turned. A figure stood among the trees, half hidden. UNMOVING. The beam of Dr. Cole's flashlight trembled as it caught the creature's form. It was tall, gaunt, with wings folded close, its skin dark as ash. Its eyes glowed, not bright, but soft, mournful. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the creature stepped forward, and the earth trembled. Dr. Cole whispered, "It's real." The thing tilted its head, studying him. Then it turned to Clara and froze. The air seemed to hum, as if recognizing something ancient and familiar. Clara felt her heart ache. "Mother," she whispered without knowing why. The creature recoiled, letting out a sound between a scream and a sob. Trees shook. The flashlight shattered. Darkness swallowed everything. When Dr. Cole awoke hours later, dawn was breaking. His equipment was destroyed. The sensors melted. Clara was gone. Only her pack remained. Her ancestor's journal lying open beside it. Scrawled across a blank page in fresh ink were 4 words. Blood calls to blood. Dr. Cole never spoke of what he saw again. But, when his footage was recovered, one frame survived. Just one. A blurred image of a winged silhouette standing over the ashes of the Leeds homestead. And in the corner of the frame, faint and almost human, were 2 glowing red eyes watching. 3 days after Dr. Cole's disastrous expedition, the Pine Barrens were sealed off by the authorities. They cited environmental hazards and unstable ground, gas leaks, unauthorized scientific activity. But the locals knew better. Something had been disturbed. And it wasn't just the trees whispering. Anymore. In a small diner on the edge of Leeds Point, an old man named Elias Crane watched the news report on a flickering television. The anchor mentioned the missing researcher and unexplained fires in the forest. The camera cut briefly to a scorched clearing, what used to be the Leeds homestead. Elias sighed. "They woke it up," he muttered, sipping his black coffee. "Fool, kids never learn." The waitress raised an eyebrow. "You mean that devil story again? You still believe that thing's real?" Elias didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the window. The wind was howling through the trees, rattling the glass like a warning. "Believe me," he said softly, "you'd better start." That same night, miles away, Clara Leeds opened her eyes in darkness. She lay in what looked like the ruins of a cellar, damp and ancient walls covered in soot and strange marks that glowed faintly like embers. The air was thick with the scent of ash and something metallic, lead maybe. Her head throbbed, her clothes were torn, but her fear was gone. Only confusion remained. Then, she heard Ida low, steady breathing behind her. She turned slowly. The creature stood there, hunched and still. Its wings were folded, its skin a shade of black that seemed to swallow light. Its eyes glowed faintly, like dying coals. And in that moment, Clara felt no terror, only an ache deep in her chest. A strange familiarity. "You brought me back," a voice whispered, not from its mouth, but in her mind. She trembled. "Who are you?" It stepped closer. "Once, I was your mother's mother. And before that, I was Deborah Leeds." Clara's breath caught. The curse, the journal, the legend. It wasn't a myth. It was a bloodline. "You were saying, you're her." The creature nodded slowly. "She cursed her 13th child. But the curse chained her soul as well. Every generation that bears her blood carries the mark. You, Clara, are the first to awaken it again." Clara backed away, her pulse pounding. "No, that's impossible." The creature's wings unfolded, filling the cellar with wind and dust. "You felt it, didn't you? The pull to this place, the dreams, the whispers in the forest." You are my descendant and my vessel. Above ground, the forest began to shift. The trees leaned inward as though bowing to something ancient. Animals fled. The air crackled with static energy. Far away, in his lab, Dr. Cole stared at his surviving footage for the 1000th time. That single blurry frame haunted him. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't think. Finally, unable to resist, he returned to the barrens. Alone, he found the clearing again, blackened earth, scorched stones, a faint symbol carved into the ground, a circle of thorns with a winged figure at its center. Then, he heard the flutter of wings above him. He looked up. For a heartbeat, the moon disappeared. Something massive glided across the treetops, silent as smoke. It landed before him, wings folding with an awful grace. Dr. Cole froze. His breath fogged in the air, though the night was warm. The creature stepped closer. But this time, he saw her Clara standing beside it. Her eyes were glowing faint red, her expression calm, almost serene. Clara, he whispered. What have you done? She tilted her head. I didn't do anything, Adrian. I became what I was always meant to be. The creature placed a clawed hand on Clara's shoulder, its voice echoing inside their minds. The line is whole again. The blood has awakened. The forest will remember. And then, with a thunderous roar, the sky lit up. Lightning ripped through the clouds. Trees burst into flames. When the storm cleared, Dr. Cole was gone. The cameras melted. Only one sound lingered through the smoke, the echo of wings, and the faint cry of something that was neither human nor beast. In the following days, strange things began to happen across southern New Jersey. Farm animals vanished. Roads flooded without rain. People woke in the night hearing screams that turned to laughter. And deep within the Pine Barrens, two shadows took flight beneath the full moon, one ancient, one newly born, circling the trees as if guarding the land that had birthed their curse. The legend had come alive again. The Jersey Devil had returned. A month passed after the storm that set the Pine Barrens ablaze. The fires were declared contained. The missing were quietly forgotten. And what little evidence remained of Dr. Cole's expedition was buried beneath government reports and half-truths. But those who lived near Leeds Point whispered of strange lights in the sky, hoofprints that glowed faintly at night, and a woman with red eyes walking the forest paths beneath the full moon. They said the legend was no longer a story, it had become a warning. In a small, forgotten church at the edge of the woods, Elias Crane lit a single candle. He had seen the signs before: the restless winds, the smell of sulfur, the trembling trees. He had lived through one devil season when he was a boy. He barely survived that night, but this time, it felt different. The air didn't just hum with fear, it pulsed with life. Something ancient had reawakened. He opened an old box from beneath the altar, revealing a weathered cross carved with strange runes and a piece of parchment older than the church itself. Scrawled in faded ink were the words, "When the 13th line awakens, the blood will demand its balance." Elias whispered a prayer. "Lord, help us. She's back." That same night, Clara Leeds stood on a cliff overlooking the barrens. Her hair, once golden, was streaked with black like smoke. Her eyes glimmered, faint red beneath the moonlight. Beside her, the creature, her ancestor, the first cursed Leeds child, waited in silence. "You feel it too?" Clara said softly. "Something's changing." The creature nodded, its wings shifting like dark sails. "The curse feeds on imbalance. When fear grows, we grow stronger. But this world, it is no longer ours. It forgets." Clara turned to her with determination. "Then maybe it's time they remember." The creature's gaze softened. "You would continue the curse." Clara's voice was calm, steady. "Not to destroy, to protect. They've poisoned this forest for centuries, burned it, built over it, laughed at its ghosts. Maybe they need to fear again to keep it alive." The wind howled through the trees below, carrying the faint cry of something ancient awakening in the soil. The creature unfurled her wings. Then the 13th line begins again. Meanwhile, miles away in a small town near Batchtoe Village, a group of hikers gathered at a bar. One of them, a local named Sam, was telling a story. "I'm serious," he said, lowering his voice. "We saw it, something flying over the marsh. Not a bird, not a drone. It had wings like leather and eyes that glowed red. My buddy got a photo, his phone burned out after." The others laughed nervously, but before Sam could continue, the lights flickered. A chill swept through the bar. The windows rattled as if struck by invisible hands. Outside, the wind rose into a shriek, then silence. From the dark woods beyond the road, two figures appeared briefly against the moonlight, a woman and a beast, moving together as one shadow. Then they were gone. At dawn, the forest was still again. But its silence was not. It was the calm of something, claiming its territory. Elias Crane walked through the ashes of the old Leeds homestead one last time. The ground was warm beneath his boots. He found a feather lying in the dirt, black and shining, too large to belong to any bird. He picked it up and whispered, "So it begins again." In the distance, the faint echo of wings answered him. As weeks passed, reports spread across the Pine Barrens, strange lights, and even voices calling names in the dark. Those who dared enter the woods after sunset spoke of feeling watched, of trees that seemed to shift when they weren't looking. But in the heart of the forest, Clara Leeds had become something more than humans, something both protector and predator. She watched over the land that bore her curse, ensuring the world would never forget what it tried to bury. The legend was no longer a story whispered by the fire. It lived in the rustle of the leaves, in the wind that carried screams through the pines, and on nights when the moon hung full and red over New Jersey. Those who looked toward the dark horizon swore. They saw two shadows soaring side by side, the old and the new, the mother and her blood, the curse and its heir. The Jersey Devil was reborn, and this time, she had a daughter's vengeance. Months passed, and the Pine Barrens seemed quiet again. The fires had long died. The government patrols had withdrawn, but silence, as everyone soon learned, was the forest's favorite disguise. The people of Leeds Point tried to move on. Tourists returned, drawn by curiosity and ghost tours. Local shops sold Jersey Devil souvenirs, red-eyed plushies, mugs with wings, and I Survived the Pine Barrens shirts. But deep down, the locals knew better. They knew the woods were watching again. One of those locals was Hannah Crane, a young journalist for the Atlantic Gazette. She'd grown up hearing her grandfather, Elias Crane, tell stories about the creature that haunted the pines. She used to laugh, thinking they were just spooky bedtime tales. But after Elias went missing near the Leeds ruins, she stopped laughing. Now she wanted the truth. So one cold autumn evening, Hannah drove her truck down the old sand road leading to the Barrens. The forest swallowed the light from her headlights almost instantly. She parked near the charred remnants of what used to be the Leeds home. As she stepped out, the air felt different, dense, charged, as if the forest were breathing around her. She held up her camera and began recording. "This is Hannah Crane," she whispered. "I'm standing where, according to legend, the Jersey Devil was born. Locals report strange sounds, lights, and disappearances, most recently, my grandfather. If there's truth to this story, I intend to find it." A twig snapped. She turned sharply, camera raised. Nothing, just fog rolling through the trees. Then she noticed something carved into a nearby tree. Trunk, a spiral of thorns encircling a winged symbol. The mark pulsed faintly, glowing red. "Grandpa," she called. Her voice vanished into the mist. Far from the clearing, in the old cellar beneath the earth, Clara Leeds sat in darkness. Her transformation was complete, her skin pale as ash, her eyes glowing softly like coals under snow. The original creature, her ancestor, was gone, dissolved into dust and memory. Clara was alone now, the last of her cursed blood, but the curse itself was growing stronger. Each time humans entered the forest, cutting, digging, burning, she felt their fear like fire in her veins. She whispered into the cold air, "You brought this on yourselves." Then she heard it, a human voice, faint and trembling. It called a name she hadn't heard in years. Leeds. Her eyes snapped open. Another one. Hannah kept walking, guided by the glow of the symbol and her camera light. The deeper she went, the more the forest changed. The trees seemed to twist toward her, their branches reaching like fingers. Then she found it, the remains of the cellar. A cold wind blew upward, carrying a whisper that wasn't quite the wind. She crouched, filming. "I think I've found the cellar entrance. It matches old maps from the 1700s. The ground shifted beneath her. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through her bones. And then, from the shadows below, two glowing eyes opened. Hannah gasped, stumbling back. The thing that emerged was not entirely beast or human. It was something between elegant and terrible. Wings unfolded slowly. The creature's voice slid into her thoughts like smoke. "You carry his blood," it said. Hannah froze. What are you?" "I am what your world tried to bury," the creature replied. "And you are what it left behind." It stepped closer. Its gaze softened, almost sorrowful. "You came seeking truth, child of Crane. But your truth is bound to mine." Hannah's hands trembled. "You know my grandfather?" The creature's wings lowered. "He sought to end the curse. Instead, he became part of it." The forest seemed to pulse around them. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum. Hannah whispered, "Then help me finish what he started." The creature tilted its head, studying her. "You would fight your own blood, if it saves others," Hannah said, her voice shaking but resolute. The creature's lips curved into something like a smile. "Then perhaps there is hope yet. But to destroy the curse, you must first understand it, and to understand it, you must become one with it." Before Hannah could react, the creature's wings swept forward, engulfing her in shadow. A scream tore through the forest, and then silence. By dawn, there was no sign of Hannah Crane, but hikers later found her camera half buried in the sand. The last frame showed her standing face to face with a dark, winged figure. And just before the footage cut to black, Hannah's eyes began to glow a faint, burning red. The curse had chosen its next vessel. And in the heart of the Pine Barrens, a new legend was taking flight. The Jersey Devil was not one being anymore. It was a bloodline reborn, again and again, through those who dared to seek it. The first thing Hannah felt when she opened her eyes was the cold. It wasn't the sharp, stinging cold of winter, but a deep chill that seemed to live inside her bones. She lay in a cave carved from black stone, lit only by the flickering glow of fireflies that pulsed like beating hearts. The air hummed softly, as if whispering secrets just out of reach. Her camera was gone. Her clothes were torn. Her veins felt as though they carried lightning instead of blood, and then she remembered the creature, the wings, the voice that spoke in her mind. She sat up, clutching her head as the memories came rushing back. The forest, the cellar, the words, "You must become one with it." "Where am I?" she whispered. The shadows around her stirred. From the far side of the cave, a figure emerged. "Clara leads." But she was changed. Her once human face now shimmered faintly, as though it existed between two realities. Her eyes glowed softly, not menacing, but sorrowful. "You shouldn't have come," Clara said gently. "The forest remembers you now." Hannah tried to stand, but her body ached with strange new strength. You did something to me." Clara nodded. "I passed it to you. The blood chooses who it binds with. You came seeking truth, and it found you worthy." "Worthy?" Hannah's voice trembled. "You cursed me." Clara stepped closer. "The curse isn't punishment, it's protection. It was born from pain. Yes, but also from love. Deborah Leeds cursed her child to survive a cruel world. And so the bloodline endures, guarding what humans destroy." Hannah shook her head, backing away. "No, I'm not like you. I'm not a monster." Clara's wings unfurled slowly, casting the cave in darkness. "Neither was I, but you will learn. Hannah, the forest will teach you." That night, Hannah wandered outside the cave, barefoot on the cold earth. The forest stretched endlessly, alive with 1,000 unseen eyes. Each sound felt sharper, each scent clearer. She could hear the pulse of living things, the heartbeat of deer miles away. The crawl of insects under bark, the faint hum of roots, drinking rainwater. Her senses were awakening, and with them came hunger. She stumbled to her knees, clutching her stomach. Her reflection in a puddle shimmered, her pupils narrow, her irises glowing faintly red. "No, no," she whispered, trembling. "I'm human, I'm still human." But when she screamed, the sound was not human. It echoed like thunder through the trees, shaking leaves from branches. In the distance, animals fled. The forest bowed from the shadows. Clara watched silently. Every new curse-bearer resisted at first, just as she once had. But the forest never let go. When the moon rose high, Hannah's transformation slowed. The red faded from her eyes. Exhausted, she collapsed beside a fallen log. Clara knelt beside her and whispered, "It isn't about power, Hannah. It's about balance. You're not meant to destroy the world, but to keep it from devouring itself." Hannah's voice was weak. "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because humans forgot what it feels like to be part of the land," Clara said softly. "Now it's reminding you." Days passed, though. Time in the barrens flowed differently, slower, heavier. Hannah began to hear the forest speak, not in words, but in rhythm. The rustle of branches carried meaning. The winds guided her. The soil pulsed under her feet, alive with memory. She began to understand. The curse wasn't evil, it was ancient nature demanding to be remembered. But that understanding came at a cost. She could no longer leave. Each time she tried to walk toward the highway, her body weakened, her vision blurred. The forest held her captive, gently but firmly, like a mother refusing to let her child wander into danger. At night, she dreamed of Elias Crane, her grandfather. He stood in the fog, holding the same black feather she'd found in his old house. His voice echoed through her mind. "Every generation pays the debt of the last. Ours is to guard what they fear. But beware, Hannah, love and rage are the same fire in this forest." When she awoke, a single black feather lay beside her. By the end of the 7th night, Hannah stopped resisting. She stood at the edge of the woods, her hair whipping in the wind, her heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the trees. From above, wings unfurled. Clara, her mentor, "Are you ready?" Clara asked. Hannah nodded slowly. "Yes, I'll protect it, this land, this secret, but if anyone comes to destroy it." Her eyes burned red as the words left her lips. "They'll meet the devil they've been telling stories about." And together, under the blood-red moon, two shadows lifted into the night sky, one ancient, one reborn. The legend of the Jersey Devil lived again. Not as a monster, but as a warning. The forest remembers everything. And now, so does she. Over the next few years, the sightings continued. Carriages were overturned in the night. Livestock disappeared. Hunters went missing. Even soldiers stationed nearby swore they'd seen the creature gliding between the trees. One man claimed to have shot it. His bullet passed through smoke and hit nothing. Another said he found a hoofprint burned into stone. Yet amid the chaos, the creature never attacked without reason. It struck swiftly, disappeared suddenly, and left behind only terror and mystery. It was as if it wanted to be seen but not caught, feared but not destroyed. And deep in the pine barrens, where no man dared to tread, something stirred in the darkness, something lonely, something broken. It would return to the ruins of the Leeds home, its wings folding close, its claws scraping the earth. Sometimes, it would sit beneath the skeletal remains of an old chimney and let out a low, haunting cry. It was not a sound of hunger but of sorrow, that perhaps, in that monstrous heart, a spark of what once was human still remained. The 13th child, forever cursed to wander between the realms of man and monster. More than a century passed, and the legend of the Jersey Devil had become an inseparable part of New Jersey's dark folklore. The Pine Barrens remained vast and untouched, an ocean of trees hiding 1,000 secrets. Hunters, travelers, and even soldiers spoke of strange lights, shrieks in the distance, and fleeting shadows gliding above the moon. Most dismissed it as old superstition. But for Clara Leeds, the story was family. Clara was a quiet young woman of 24, a historian at the Philadelphia Society of Early American Records. Her fascination with colonial myths often drew laughter from her peers, but she didn't mind. She had grown up hearing the story of Mother Leeds from her grandmother, who always whispered it by firelight and ended the tale with the same words: "Never forget where you come from, child. The past watches us." When Clara's grandmother passed, she left behind an old wooden chest bound in cracked leather. Inside were yellowed papers, faded letters, and a journal so fragile that its pages threatened to crumble. On the cover was a single word, written in trembling ink: Deborah. Clara's heart raced. Deborah Leeds, the woman of legend, the mother who had cursed her child. She opened the journal carefully. The writing began plainly, describing life in the 1730s: hunger, storms, sickness, the endless struggle to feed 12 children. But as the pages continued, the words grew desperate. "The forest takes, and takes again. My babes cry through the night. I have begged the Lord for mercy, but he does not hear. So I turned to another." Clara frowned. The ink grew darker, the handwriting jagged. The next entry chilled her to the bone. "I went to the edge of the barrens, where the old woman dwells. She spoke the words I should not have heard. She promised that my family would never hunger again. I had to give but one thing, in return my 13th child." A shiver ran down Clara's spine. Could it be true? Was the Jersey Devil not just a curse but a bargain? The final pages were written in frantic, broken lines. "The child came in storm and fire. I saw his eyes, and I knew. He looked at me, my son, and yet not mine. I begged the woman to undo it, but she only laughed. Now the creature roams free, and I am damned. If anyone reads this, forgive me. The debt was not paid. The devil still waits for his due." The last page was signed, D. Leeds, 1735. Clara leaned back, trembling. The journal's edges were burned, as if someone had tried to destroy it long ago. She knew she had uncovered something the world had forgotten: the truth behind the curse. But one question haunted her. If the debt was not paid, what remained to be claimed? Over the following days, Clara could think of nothing else. She researched every record of the Leeds family and found a chilling pattern. Each generation had lost someone under mysterious circumstances. Disappearances, accidents, fires. It was as if something hunted them still. That night, she dreamt of a stormy forest, of lightning cutting through black trees, and a figure standing among them, a creature with wings of ash and eyes that glowed like dying embers. But when it looked at her, she didn't feel fear. She felt sorrow, and she heard a whisper: "Blood calls to blood." She woke gasping. Outside, rain pounded the windows. The wind howled, carrying a sound that made her heart stop. A long, distant wail that rose and fell like a cry of mourning. She told herself it was thunder. But when she went to the window, she saw a shadow moving among the trees, its wings folding as it passed beneath the moon. Clara's reflection trembled in the glass. Behind her, the journal lay open on her desk, its pages fluttering as if breathed upon by unseen wind. The words seemed to shimmer in the candlelight, as though written anew: "The curse is bound by blood. Only one of Leeds may break it." Clara backed away slowly, heart pounding. For the first time, she understood the truth. The Jersey Devil wasn't gone. It was waiting for her.